the Star Model BM in 9mm. Let's check it out. The Star BM was produced from 1972 to 1992, and over 20 years, 217,000 Star BMs were made. These are compact pistols. They're very similar to the 1911, and yet there are some differences, and we're going to take a look at that. But one of the things I love is getting a hold of some of these old school type firearms that have a lot of history behind them. And the Star BM definitely has that. And plus, they just have a lot of soul. These were not only used in Spain for their national police and military units, but also in South Africa and in Rhodesia, and actually served in the Rhodesian Bush War. Now, when surplus firearms start coming into the country, they're usually in a large amount, and the price reflects it. I think these are running about 230 bucks, and that is a great price. J&G Sales actually sent this one for this review. And if you wait and you don't purchase right up front, they incrementally go up to the point that these will double in price in the next few years. These are great little firearms. They're very easy to shoot. The recoil is really mild, and it's an all steel frame, but we're going to take a look at a lot of the details. And this is a really great pistol that has some history behind it, and yet has a lot of soul as well. And when you have a firearm that comes in a box this old, you know you've got something pretty cool. This is just a little small, the original box from Star, the original Star manual, which is in Spanish, and still really cool to have. Of course, you have your little cutout here for your magazine, and then of course the pistol, and it does come with a cleaning rod. Now, that doesn't mean that all the pistols that you get are going to have this. I think, in fact, on J&G it even said that some will come in a plastic box. Again, these pistols were made from 1972 to 1992, so there's a 20-year difference. But one thing that's almost unheard of is that these pistols never really received any kind of model change. I mean, they're all pretty much like they were from 1972. I think some of the serrations were changed a little bit longer, but other than that, I think everything else is pretty much as is. First thing we're going to do is make sure the gun isn't loaded. We're going to drop the magazine, check the chamber, and the gun is empty. It does have a magazine disconnect, which I'm showing you right there. It does come with an 8-round magazine. It is steel, and it has these side little cuts to be able to see your round count. But unless you have the magazine inserted, the gun will not function. It does come with plastic grips. It's all steel, so it has some heft to it. The blue on here is really still pretty nice. In fact, once these were turned in for newer models, Star got a hold of them and refurbished them at the factory. Now from here, the finish looks pretty nice with the bluing. There is a little bit of wear here and there, but very acceptable for this type firearm. But obviously one big noticeable thing is that these are in the 1911 kind of style and design. Of course, has the frame mounted safety right here. You have your slide release right here, your mag release right here, and your hammer, a spurred hammer with checkering on the top. And then we have those old government, just low profile type sights. The front sight's actually a little bit larger than some of the original government 45s, but they are low profile. One thing that I will do is put a little bit of white paint here on the tip once the review's done, but I like to show the gun as is. The trigger itself is more of the pivot style. Now with the 1911, they go straight back. There are 2 bars that actually interact. With the Star models, you have a small little pin that runs through here, so it does have kind of a pivot effect. There's no grip safety, but it does come out just a little bit. It fits in the hand very nicely. There are no serrations on the back or the front. They're just really smooth. But guys, honestly, because the recoil was so mild, I don't know that you really need it. And the bluing, you can see, still nice, but if you look here on the slide, it looks a little bit rough. The stamping is pretty light, and looks like, you know, just some machining marks, just where it wasn't really completely finished, just down to a nice polish. But you do have your markings here with star, and then of course the caliber. The slide serrations are pretty decent. They're very close, but they definitely get the job done. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave this magazine in here because of the disconnect. It has an external extractor right here on the outside, different from the 1911. We do have a bushing system, and we'll look a little bit more at that, but it's definitely different as well. Now you'll see right here on the slide, Century Arms International, and they imported these. They tend to mark their surplus guns in the worst places. Really, it doesn't really detract from this being a super cool old pistol. You have a serial number that's new, but then you have the original serial numbers right here. There are some circular grinding marks right here on the frame and the slide. This is typical for Star. They ended up grinding off any kind of markings that would show where it's from. The weight on the pistol with the magazine, 2 pounds, 2.2 ounces. But obviously with the steel frame and the steel slide, you're going to have some weight to it, which counterbalances the recoil. At the range, it just shot very smooth and very easy to stay on target. One thing that really surprised me was the accuracy, because sometimes when you get surplus pistols or military type pistols, they're kind of worn out and they're not that accurate. But I think that this pistol really has very acceptable accuracy in spite of these sights. I want to thank Freedom Munitions for sponsoring the ammo. We're using some of their remanufactured 9mm 115 grain and also their Pro Match 135 grain hollow point XAP rounds. And you get a 5% discount using Sootch00 when you go to freedommunitions.com. Now for disassembly, we're going to go ahead and remove the magazine. We're going to pull back to make sure that the gun is unloaded, and it is. Now you'll see 2 rear notches in the slide, and back here is for your safety. This is for your takedown. And once we just push it back a little bit farther, you can engage your safety into your slide. Push your slide release pin through, and it pops out pretty easily. There is a small detent right here that holds it into place. Release your safety, and the slide comes right off. Now we have our recoil spring and guide rod. You have to kind of turn this just a little bit to get it to come out, but it is very reminiscent of the 1911, the way it has this little horseshoe. The guide rod is all steel, and it is a captive recoil spring. Next, we take our barrel bushing and we turn it to the right, and then we just lift it right out. Take your barrel link, push it down, and then bring your barrel right out like the 1911. So there are a lot of similarities to the 1911, and yet there are quite a few differences, mainly with the barrel bushing and the captive guide rod. And that field strips the pistol. Reassembly in reverse order. We're going to slide our barrel back into the slide. Bring this little link up. Take your barrel bushing, and there's a small notch on the barrel bushing that actually corresponds with a groove inside the slide. We're going to put it at about the 4 to 5 o'clock position, and then we bring it down. Take your recoil spring and guide rod, set it into place. It will not fit with the link in the way. Now we're going to take and be sure that you keep this link in sight, because it's going to go, this rod on the slide stop will go right through. And as we slide it back on the slide, what I like to do is I get it in this position, go ahead and get my slide stop started, and then bring back my slide and engage it in that second little notch. Pull the slide stop out just a touch, snap it down. One thing you'll want to make sure is that it is in place. One time I was messing around with it and breaking it down, and I didn't quite have it in this little detent in that little area, and the slide stop came out after it was assembled. Go ahead and depress your safety, and we're good to go. Return our magazine so we can check to make sure that everything's working, and it is. Pros and cons of the pistol. This is a proven design used again for over 20 years with 3 different nations with their military and police units. It's all steel frame, so it's really durable, and these have a pretty good reputation. And just that they're actually in fairly good condition. At least this example is. And it was very reliable. We shot about 500 rounds. I did have one problem with a shell not ejecting completely. I'm not really sure what was going on, but after that I didn't have any problems. So that was really pretty much the only con. It is an all steel frame, but that really helps tame the recoil. The price is definitely right. I mean, 230 bucks. That to me is just a great way to pick up a really neat pistol, and you know, something that you can take out to the range, you can have fun, but it also could serve as a concealed carry because it is somewhat of a compact pistol. The box and all the accessories, whether it's the cardboard box or the plastic, I think that adds a lot to the value. Now the sights, while they're very low and rudimentary, it's definitely just a service pistol, and that's one of the things that you're going to just have. One thing that can be a problem are parts, finding parts. I think there are a number of different part sources, and so you'll probably, if you do have a problem, that could be a little bit of an issue. One thing about the extra magazines is I think J&G Sales has these magazines for like $19.95 a piece. So if you're going to buy one of these, I would definitely recommend buying at least 1 or 2 extra magazines. It does come with one, and having those extras makes it nice, because later on down the road, those are going to go up and they're going to be hard to find. You can get a hand select, I believe, from J&G Sales as well. And I want to thank J&G Sales for sending the Star BM for this test and evaluation. It's been a lot of fun at the range. This is a smooth shooting little single stack 9mm pistol, and of course along with the 1911 design. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. This $29.95 or something. But one thing about these is pretty easy to grab hold of. Okay. It has an external. One thing that you will notice is that you need to turn this. Okay. What's that dog doing? Dog's gonna drive me crazy.